For your Agile PMOs, they need to focus on vision. They need to have clear definitions, distill clear agreements, have clear short plans and timeframes for delivery, and drive to success with frequent communication. This is an example of a more traditional PMO setup where you have the teams and the tactics down at the task level, projects and processes or products at the next level up. Not every company uses projects anymore for sorting out all the different work. That's the people level. You'll see that we're using the VSPT here. For programs, that should be the strategic the strategic level, how you're going to implement your strategies. You're going to use programs to do that. Portfolio should include the vision level, and each of these levels needs to link up to the one above and link to the overall vision and strategy. And again, you're going from more abstract further up in the organization, more concrete as you're getting down to the team level. So this is a way to look at VSPT and bring it down from vision and strategy, which are pretty abstract, to people and tasks where you're doing concrete work that can be measured. So your Scrum teams need to be persistent, dedicated, time-boxed, perhaps. And you could have Team A working for Program W, Team B working for Program X, Team C working for Program Y, Team whatever working for Program Z. And then as they complete the projects, you just assign the next project to them as you're moving across. And so this was for a time frame during 2018, helping a customer understand, okay, we've got these 4 teams, they're working on different programs, and here are the projects that they're going to be working on during this part of, or this half of the year, roughly almost, for a 5-6 month time frame. Here's the projects that they're going to be working on. For the reporting upstream, I prefer burn-up charts as compared to burn-down charts. Most executives are going to want to see burn-up charts because they don't like to see graphs that are pointing downward, because that usually means they're losing money. So they like to see graphs that are going upwards. And the reason that I really like burn-up charts is then I can put a t-shirt sized estimate of the backlog above it, and by doing trend lines, I can start to predict when either a project or a program is going to be completed. We use team health checks, radars, the AHA curve, the flow friction analysis for reporting upstream. We still use product roadmaps for reporting purposes. We'll use the PMO biweekly meetings or monthly meetings, depending on how the organization's set up. And then for the ATG, the Agile Transformation Group or Agile Transformation Team, you would have monthly meetings for the senior executives involved in that team. And then you'll have quarterly meetings that involve everybody, including the C-suite. And so there's a double cadence there for that. And here's some real world results, and we're going to go through this pretty much area by area. It's good to remember that your team burn-up charts or burn-down charts are basically for team use only. They're not really for the managers, and you have to train your managers. Look, this is to help the teams improve, and we really don't need your help in that area. We don't need your support in that area. And if you read these, then you need to read them over time and in context before you guys start to having any kind of feedback or input to the team burn-up charts. But in general, the team burn-up charts are for team use only. It's to help them improve, to get better sprint by sprint by sprint. Okay. Where it gets interesting for the managers and line managers, program managers, portfolio directors, managers, and above, to the C-suite are these three graphs that I have over here in the other two boxes. You have a program level report that's project by project, and then the program level report that is consolidated for all the projects within that program. And then the portfolio becomes a consolidated view for a specific portfolio for the organization. So this is an example from real world. We changed the names and what the projects were and things like that. And you can see that we had gotten pretty good. This was after, I think this was 2012 reporting. This was just for team use, but we were able to get a pretty good feel for the size of the backlogs based on the product backlogs created in the workshops with the teams. And we would plot day by day how the team's doing, and we could watch to see did their backlog grow a little bit during the sprint as they got better at estimating the size of the work that they were doing. It might have taken them a few days to realize that, oh, this that was 8 points was actually 35 points or 30 points or whatever. And well, using the Fibonacci, it would have been a different size, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, they realized that a couple of the items were bigger than they thought. And since we were using 2-week sprints, and we were looking at, okay, what's the daily velocity after like 3-4 days, and the line was predicting that, oh, well, we could potentially end this sprint 2 weeks early, but you could see that the line was actually starting to flatten out. And on this one, it ended up being an S curve, and they delivered right on time. Now, the project was also tracked on a sprint-by-sprint basis. And on a sprint-by-sprint basis, if you know the total size of the backlog for what's going to be released for a specific project, after 5-6 sprints, you're going to have a relatively accurate picture on whether or not they're going to make it within X number of sprints. And for this one, it looked like 20 sprints, which was almost a full year's worth of effort for this project. And you can see that they were estimating that they were going to end potentially a sprint or two earlier than what they had planned. But you could see that on a sprint by sprint basis, this team was consistently delivering the points and a certain amount of points that they put on the board. And so this is a tool for the product owner and for the program managers to be able to report back up to the executives, here's this project, here's what's happening, and here's a potential date for when it will be complete. Now you'll notice that I don't do 3-point estimates. Personally, I think that's extra overhead that's not necessary, because the problem is that the executives tend to be over optimistic, and if you give them the most likely date, the best case, and the worst case, they're gonna go to best case, and then all of a sudden you're getting pulled towards a delivery date that might or might not actually be achievable. And so I don't like doing that. I think this is more transparent and more real. And anyways, on a sprint by sprint basis, you can see if this line's moving up or down. So if the couple sprints before the line had been slightly lower, which it looks like it would have been, that means that if the line's going up, then you can see, oh, the team is actually accelerating a little bit, and it appears that they've created a sustainable velocity. And the bump that you see there that has come back down, either they decided to remove some items from the overall backlog that were no longer relevant, or they realized that they had missized, that they hadn't sized the backlog items correctly, and so they were refining and getting a better feel for how many points were actually in the backlog. So the upper line can move, but it gives you the idea of what we're shooting for from having a not a perfect, but a relatively good way to be able to predict outcomes. Okay, that doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, but it gives you at least a tool to be able to say, oh, well, within a range, we could hit this for this project. And really, that's all the executives want and need. Now, for the program level, what we did is we did a backlog of the projects. And so we have a project backlog with all the projects in that backlog. And you can see that on this particular portfolio, for this particular program, that they started out with 10 projects in the portfolio. But because of the velocity of the team and how quickly things were being completed, the executives said, oh, okay, well, we can move 6 or 7 additional projects into this portfolio because it looks like the team could actually achieve that. And again, this one turned into an S curve, and the team actually delivered the 17 projects for 2013 because you could see that all of a sudden their velocity had increased quite dramatically during vacation time during June and July. So they were planning while they were ready to deliver for the fall, and the picture of this one at the end was really good. This one is the portfolio prediction. So this was comparing 2011 in the green to what we were shooting for 2012. And by the time you get to the end of the year, you know if you're going to be delivering all of the projects and programs in the portfolio by the end of the year. And so this one, it ended up being, they hit 98 projects, even though in October it looked like they could have hit 100. A couple of the projects didn't come in, okay? But the next slide is where it gets really interesting. Because in this slide, we look at, okay, where did we start? We started, and the lines aren't perfect, but we started at about just under 60 projects a year, 58. And that was their numbers for 2010. 2011, we hit somewhere around 72. That line's not quite in the right place. 2012, we hit 98. And in 2013, which is that upper black line, we hit 124. So we more than doubled the throughput of the projects in the organization in 2.5 years. And what's interesting is when we started with all of this, at the end of 2010, they had over 260 projects in their project backlog list, which means that at 58 a year, they had almost 4.5 years worth of work that they needed to deliver. 4.5 years. Now, if you add up the 72, 98, and 124, I think you come up to 290 something for the 3 years. So basically what happened is we were able to deliver not just the 260 projects, but we were able to deliver 30 additional ones by the end of 2013, which means we moved up the budget years. We saved over a whole year of budget for 250 people. Do the math. For the 18 Agile teams, which is what I counted in the book, we counted it as 18 million. But we didn't count the cost for the other 70 people that were working with those teams that were coming from marketing and operations and things like that. So that was a pretty significant amount of money. It was probably closer to $27 million that were saved of budget. And so the company was able to get more work done, twice the work in half the time. Just like Dr. Sutherland and Ken Schwaber have said in their books, it's just like what they're talking about. And it works. And this worked. And we were able to get this done in 2.5 years instead of the usual 5 to 7 years for a transformation, because we applied the principles of flow and we applied it consistently and with intention to watch what it would do and to prove that, yes, flow really works. And so this became one of the case studies that's in our book. And it's just one of many case studies that we have where over and over and over again, we're able to create compressions of time. And by being able to get out to the market quicker, I'm sure we increased revenue. We definitely saved them about $27 million in cost. And we definitely mitigated and got rid of risk along the way. So all of this works. It works flat out.